Hello again, and welcome to another edition of Media Watch. I'm your co-host, Eric Tait.
And I'm Raymond Peterson.
Raymond, we're here thanks to good graces of Manhattan Neighborhood Network and EVT Educational Productions, and once more into the breach. Lots of stuff going on. We're pre-taping the Thursday before our Monday air date. So let's try to do some analysis, some commentary, and whatever on the stuff that we think will still be floating around in the blogosphere, Twittersphere, mainstream media, non-mainstream media. But yeah, more perspective and analysis, because there's no point trying to keep up with all the breaking stuff. But a story, of course, that should still be in the news, with enough people being outraged. The Republicans went ahead 50-50 vote about rescinding consumers' rights to sue banks and credit cards and all those folks when they've been treated badly. I believe Vice President Pence cast the 51st
He cast the
tie-breaking
deciding vote. Yes.
And so now those protections that the Consumer Protection Agency, or something to that effect, that was put in place thanks to Elizabeth Warren's really yo-woman effort to actually push that through and get it passed. And it may well have been a subset of the old Dodd-Frank bill to help curb in Wall Street and the banks from running rapaciously over consumers. That provision has gone away. Yeah. So what did you see about the initial reaction to it going away?
Well, the initial reaction is people were wondering, well, if my bank makes a mistake, how can I rectify it if they don't? People are upset, as usual, with almost everything that comes out of this administration. But we're going to have to see what happens when it really comes down.
Well, I don't know what we're going to have to see, because there's no longer any provision to do a class action, and so and guess what? You can't take them to court.
You can't take them to court at all.
That's right. It's now
even as
back
an individual. Okay, but I didn't read the whole bill.
Nobody's going to sue for $200.
Well, nobody's
going to sue for $50. But if you can put all those small numbers together, you could actually file a class action suit.
Well, that's true too.
And so that provision has gone away. And of course, you understand that most of those credit card agreements that we've always signed, because hey, we want to get the credit card, so the 10 pages of fine print that is so fine reads. That if you don't have 10 magnifying glass with triple the magnifying power, you're not going to be able to read anyway. Basically, those all say you go to arbitration. Now, I know from having dug into a bit of research on the vagaries of arbitration for some earlier Media Watch shows, it's the percentage of arbitration ruling going in favor of a consumer as opposed to a corporation is almost nil to none.
Okay.
It's not, the record is not good. So if you're going to arbitration, don't expect to win unless you're one of the lucky few.
I'm wondering, how often are there class action suits against banks, though?
Well, it's interesting because on at least 2, possibly 3 occasions, I've received stuff in the mail that said, one was about American Express, one was about MasterCard, MasterCharge at the time, and that shows you how far back it goes. But something came in the mail that says, you were part of a class action suit if you bought anything from MasterCard between this period and this period, you're entitled to X number of cents on the dollar, settlement, contact so-and-so and such and such. And one was American Express, one was, and a class action suit had been filed because certain things had been done that people caught on their statements. They pulled the complaints, got a law firm, and they actually did class action. And because I had purchased stuff within that time period, I was included in the class, right? The settlement. The numbers were so small that, it wasn't worth my time to even go register, $1.59 or whatever the heck it was. But you see, if you try to do that suit by yourself. You're not even getting $1.59, and you're going to
Of course,
arbitration, and you're going to lose. So yeah, but that's.
It's saving the banks a lot of money, but it's not really saving individuals that much money.
I don't know, because I never had to take them to court.
No, as you say,
on anything.
I've received notification of class action suits before, and it's been sums like 29 cents, 76 cents, things like that. It's never been a significant amount of money. So, but it does save the banks, who are paying 29 cents to 40 million people.
They're not paying.
Well, not anymore.
They're not paying anything to anybody now. And the bottom line is, now you won't even get a chance to get the 29 cents. Right. You're going to go to arbitration and get ruled against. But the significance for me on that vote and that stripping away of consumer protections for us rank and file ordinary citizens is the fact that the Republicans voted lockstep to get rid of those protections for the rank and file, Jane Doe, John Doe that we represent. I say we represent because as far as I'm concerned, I'm not in the 1%, folk, and I'm never going to be in the 1%. But on that same day, if I remember correctly, you can correct me if I'm wrong, Senator Bob Corker had made an amazing statement about how the discourse had gotten to such a level, and that the current occupant of the White House had debased the country to such an extent that he could no longer be party to it, and so therefore he wasn't going to run again. And later that afternoon, Senator Jeff Flake, the younger junior senator from the state of Arizona, he actually, I heard not the actual speech, but it was such a telling speech, excoriated the current occupant of the White House for debasing the country, for telling lies, and
he's also not going to run again.
Yeah, okay. Those are two things to talk about. Evidently Republicans don't speak out against this president until they decide they're not going to run again. But what struck me and what annoyed me no end was, after such a riveting speech that actually was right on target. I mean, it was a, quote, textbook speech, because any number of individuals said this is a speech that needs to be taught, read in all the civics classes and the history classes in grammar school and high school and so. And as soon as I heard that line, I said, well, you folks don't really understand what's going on, because they don't teach civics, very little history in our public schools today. But yeah, it was a noteworthy speech. And so I'm giving him points, big conservative though he is. But then again, as it came time for that vote, what did he do? What was Elizabeth Warren's quote? Words are, I think she said something, words are great, but actions speak louder than words. Why would you talk about an administration that doesn't do right by the country, by the people, by whatever, and then you turn around and vote to strip them away of any consumer protection agency? He said Corker did great with words, but when it came time to vote, he voted Trump. Flake did great when it time to vote on the consumer protection. He went with Trump and the Republicans. So
I guess, and rightfully so on their part, they're afraid of retaliation from the president.
No, they can't be afraid. They're not running it.
Well, no, but they aren't afraid. They're in office right now.
That's not. What is he going to do to him? He can't get him out of office.
Who knows? Who knows what he's going to do next? You never know what he's going to do.
No. The interesting thing is, his response to their critique of him was, they're both losers and they're not going to be reelected, and that's why they're saying what they're saying, and yeah, he's got a point, except that what they said was right on target. So it's going to be interesting to see come next week as the fallout from the consumer vote, or actually, what fallout? The consumers got no protection. Evidently, the Republicans don't care about their voting power. Otherwise, they wouldn't have paid off the big banks, because as one pundit stated, well, that was one easy way to give back something to their donor class. Their donor class are the banks and the 1%. And so by stripping that protection away, the banks made out like bandits, which some of them are, actually, which most of them are, and the consumers lost. So we're going to see if the Democrats, independents, anybody else use this as fodder to rile up the electorate like they did during the health care vote, because people's pocketbooks hurt when they don't have protections and they can't be safeguarded against big, rapacious institutions that will rip them off at the drop of a hat. Wells Fargo is now totally off the hook for all that crazy stuff that they did. So, and folks, you remember Wells Fargo, who ripped off gazillion consumers by opening phony accounts in their name and phony credit card accounts and all that. And they got caught and they got slapped with $1 million fines, one of the largest fines ever. And then they were discovered to have done it even worse, and then they were brought on the carpet again. Guess what, folks? That's all gone away.
No.
So, all right, now the other big story that will probably still be in the news, and trust me, it's going to be still in the news, because I just saw a headline this morning about a media person by the name of Mark Halperin, who has been, I believe at one time, you can correct me if I'm wrong, he might have written for Newsweek in the print media. He was a a pundit for CNN and MSNBC on media and political matters. But he is the latest large name, major name media person to have been evidently accused of sexual harassment. And it's interesting because the names just seem to keep coming up.
They do. It's amazing. It's turning into a sex gate, a sexual harassment gate type thing. Yeah, I'm just amazed at how many people are coming out with stories to tell about various individuals in the entertainment and broadcast world.
Well, let me see if I can pull up the email that I saw that actually talked about some of that stuff.
But it seems like every major starlet has a story to tell about something somewhere by someone in business, someone over them, someone that exercises authority over them.
Well, the reason why I'm interested in Halperin as the latest is because he's a media person.
Mm-hmm.
Bill O'Reilly, a media person. Bill O'Reilly, Roger Ailes, the Fox climate of whatever as they called it, was one that seemed to foster that. And what was it you were telling me about Megyn Kelly, and I believe on one of her shows, went after O'Reilly after the New York Times broke the story about him paying $32 million in hush money to someone.
32 million?
32
I thought that was a total, not a
no,
not,
no. 32 million to one individual. It was bizarre. And if I remember correctly on the Times story, a New York Times story of last week, they were saying that right after, which he settled with his own personal money, by the way, right after that, the Fox people extended his contract.
Yeah.
So I believe that's why Megyn Kelly went after O'Reilly and Fox, because it came out that they were aiding and abetting because they knew he had made this $32 million settlement, and they proceeded to renew his contract.
Well, he was sued by someone back in I don't want to put a date on it, but you know I worked at Fox at one time, and while I was there, this young lady sued him and won her case against him. And that made the media for like one day, maybe, as I recall.
I read a story where a black female reported him to HR, but I don't think she sued him. Was that a different story?
No, this is a different story. This was let's see, when did I leave Fox? I left Fox in 2010. So this was prior to 2010, before anybody heard about Bill O'Reilly and the sexual allegations. So this has been going on for some time.
Well, the Daily Kos, which is a left-leaning online aggregator of news, I believe. I could kind of classify it that way. Their headline is "Sexual Harassment Allegations Put Mark Halperin's Past Defense of Trump in a New Light." He was evidently a defender of Trump after the "we can snatch their private parts" quote, okay? And according to the Daily Kos, the author Laura Clausen, Daily Kos, October 26 is the dateline on this, folks. After quoting the article, after the New York Times ran a pre-pussy tape investigative piece on Trump's treatment of women, in which a Miss Universe contestant described Trump kissing her and other contestants on the lips without asking, and another woman about him groping her under the table in the presence of her boyfriend, Halperin's take was that there's some troubling things in the piece, but there's nothing illegal. There's nothing even kind of like beyond boorish or politically incorrect, which is built into the Donald Trump brand. That's a Mark Halperin quote at the time, okay? So this lady is saying, Laura Clausen, that may be because Mark Halperin may have been part of the club that did such and such a thing. And Halperin gave a statement to CNN saying, because I believe CNN may have put him on hiatus from being a pundit, quote, "During this period, I did pursue relationships with women that I work with, including some junior to me," Halperin said in a statement to CNN last Wednesday night. Quote, "I now understand from these accounts that my behavior was inappropriate and caused others pain. For that, I am deeply sorry and I apologize. Under the circumstances, I'm going to take a step back from my day-to-day work while I properly deal with this situation." Does that sound familiar? Who was it taking a time off from? Those phrases are beginning to ring.
He hasn't been released, has he?
Well, let me put it this way. I believe MSNBC, where's the MSNBC quote? Because he's one of their pundits as well. Nope, I don't see the MSNBC quote, but they put him on hiatus. They have put him on hiatus when I read the story earlier. But
that statement in itself is just absurd.
It's BS, but so is all the other statements people make when they defend themselves.
On the face of it, I mean, is he brain dead? He has to see that this is wrong in order for him to admit that he was wrong? Or in order for him to admit anything at all, I guess.
Well, I think that was what he said. That was, quote, boorish behavior at the time. Maybe politically incorrect. What was the exact quote? Boorish?
Yeah, boorish.
Nothing illegal.
Nothing illegal.
Beyond boorish or politically incorrect. Right. So that's his take on that stuff. But the thing that jump-started this, actually, Gretchen Carlson's suit against Fox actually was the big Megillah that started the ball rolling. But the Harvey Weinstein Hollywood connection is what do they call it? Blew up the whole Megillah into what became an international juggernaut of Me Too. Right. Okay, because that's the hashtag that women have put out there to talk about the fact that this is endemic. And folks, I remember when it broke. We may have talked about it briefly on an earlier Media Watch But this is not Hollywood. This is not just television media. This is across the board, with most people that are in power. And it's a matter of having to control someone else and feeling that that does something for your own ego and makes you a bigger or whatever, or makes whatever you have seem bigger. I don't know. But it's not Hollywood. It's not just Harvey Weinstein. But there's a take on this, because let's talk about where we were on the last show we did about Donald Trump not really offering the proper condolences to Myeshia Johnson. And the fallout from that is Donald Trump has claimed that Myeshia Johnson is a liar, because he said he's got the greatest memory, one of the greatest memories on the planet and on Earth.
Not
and
to
so
mention that he's very intelligent.
Yeah, right, super intelligent. And we're quoting Donald Trump, by the way. This is not our assessment. And in defense of Donald Trump, they sent out General Kelly, right?
Yeah,
the chief of staff.
Kelly.
Yeah. What can you remember what he called
But,
the Congresswoman when he was disputing the fact that she was in the car and overheard the conversation?
I wish I could remember. It was very derogatory as far as I'm concerned.
Well, the empty barrel. She was an empty barrel, and it turns out that he basically lied about what she had said at the speech for the dedication of the FBI building. And then when they dug up the tape, I believe the Florida Sentinel, one of the Florida papers, actually had a videotape of her speech. He basically was proven to be a liar, so he was lying about her. Trump is disputing the widow and the fact that the widow says he didn't even know my husband's name, so he's calling her a liar and talking about his great memory. And so this historically brings me to the Harvey Weinstein thing, ties into that, in that of all the women who came out and accused Harvey Weinstein of sexual harassment, Lupita Nyong'o came out with her tale of being a Yale student and being invited to his place and undergoing similar, let's do the massage, and she said, no, I got to get out of here. And of all the women, the only pushback that Harvey Weinstein decided he would push back at was Lupita Nyong'o, the one African-American
woman,
woman of color. Congresswoman, what's Congresswoman's, the Florida Congresswoman.
Her last name.
I want to say not Kendrick.
We're both getting old.
Yeah, I'm getting senile now. But
well, the thing,
Myeshia Johnson's Congresswoman, the lady with the hats, who basically said he lied on me, and then the White House press secretary said, how dare you doubt a five-star general? If he says what he says, how dare you question him? So here's a white woman defending a white four-star general who is calling a black congresswoman a liar, who's with a white inhabitant of the White House calling a Gold Star widow a liar, and Harvey Weinstein, degenerate that he may be proven to be, pushing back on this black. So you got these three black women, and I was talking to Bob about what we might want to talk about. And for me, this gets to the heart of the fact that not only the Malcolm X quote says it best, and somebody came up with it a week and a half ago. I read it just before this thing blew up. He says, there's no one more disrespected in these United States of America than a black woman, an African-American woman. And these three instances prove that to the nth degree.
That's been going on forever, though. I mean, this is an old story. You remember the story of Elizabeth Jennings.
Oh, well, yeah. Now you're talking we're talking 19th century disrespecting.
We're talking 1854.
Yeah,
when Elizabeth Jennings tried to ride on a New York City transit vehicle. The
trolley.
horse-drawn
Yes, the
trolleys
horse-drawn
at the time.
trolley.
Yeah.
That's right.
The Third Avenue
Railway Company.
Company.
Yes.
And she was thrown off. She eventually, there's more to it than but in short, she was thrown off. She sued. She won the suit. She was awarded. Now, according the official report is that she was awarded $250. But according to urban anthropologist Dr. Cheryl D. Wilson, she was really awarded $500
By the jury.
by the jury. But the judge cut the award in half because, and I'm paraphrasing Dr. Wilson at the moment, he said, "What would a colored woman do with that kind of money?" And he cut the award in half.
So yeah, the history of disrespecting
It's-
black women is endemic to the culture.
Endemic to the culture,
so
absolutely.
so I don't know how much time we have left, but there are a number of things that we need to think about. Let's see, 40, 20,
2 minutes.
2 minutes, wow. I don't know if 2 minutes will give us enough time. Maybe what we should do is give people a sense of some of the breaking news stories that will be playing forth when stuff hits the fan next week. Let's see what was in my inbox. A couple of key stories.
While you're looking at that, just like say, if you've never heard of Elizabeth Jennings, you should look her up. There's a Wikipedia on her.
Go to
She's
Then I'll
very
Be Free to
interesting.
Travel Home.
Go to
Our documentary.
Absolutely. She's profiled in our documentary, Then I'll Be Free to Travel Home, which is available.
Amazon.com.
Thank you.
Then I'll Be Free to Travel Home.
With some very good music, by the way.
Oh, indeed. And some seriously, seriously pertinent history to what's going on in the 21st century America. Basically, the country is just repeating this whole bit, the bit about constitutional rights, the bit about being free to be a first-class citizen and expressing your rights. It deals with all the stuff that we're still fighting, those people taking a knee because of lack of equal justice under the law. Hey, we got about 13 seconds. I can't give you an update of what you're going to be looking at. So catch us the next time. I'm Eric Tait.
And I'm Raymond Peterson.
This has been Media Watch, and